Let's see what we can see and not see with Mission 3. Welcome to Learn to Play Infinity N5 from the Infinity Institute from the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra and today we are on to Mission 3. So what that does mean is if you haven't seen the videos before this one, you should definitely go and check them out, especially the last one which deals with Missions 1 and 2. That lays the foundations of Infinity N5, and if you haven't seen that, this won't make any sense, so definitely go and check that one out. Well, wait. Assuming that you have, and that you're up to date, in this video we are going to be looking at some of the first exceptions to the rules inside of Infinity. As I said in the previous video, Infinity is a system where you have a whole set of processes and concepts, and then a whole set of exceptions that are built on those to build different technologies and skills and abilities inside the system. We're going to be looking at the first of those today. But as ever, thank you to our channel Patreons and members, especially Sean Colburn, Old Man Rogers, Chaos Discordia and Runic Wolf, who are our top level Patreons and members. You guys are really helping to support this series coming to life, and you guys will have access to the first of the downloads for this series via the members version of this video. So if you do want to have access to the assets that make this series even better, become a member, become a Patreon now, and you'll get access to them. But enough of the promo, let's dive into today's mission. And here we are on Mission 3, the Sneaky Disco. I promise all of that will make sense as we go through this mission. It may not amuse you like it amuses me, but hey, here we are. Let's look at what we're going to learn today. The objectives for today is we're going to learn about special skills, specifically mimetism, and modifiers which come from some of those special skills. We are going to learn about equipment, specifically the multispectral visor family, and then we learn about states. So those three concepts, special skills, equipment and states, are central things to understanding profiles and rules inside of Infinity. A lot of skills or weapons will inflict a state on a trooper, so knowing what these are and how they fit together, really, really important. We're then going to learn about the Camouflage state, which is one of the most intricate states that you can learn. So if you can master that one, you can master anything. And we're going to learn about the concept of exceptions to the rule. Next up, you get a new skill to your bow. That will be the Discover skill, aka Disco. And then we learn about MSV 3, which is Multispectral Visor Level 3. Why will we learn about that so much later than learning about multispectral visors? Only time will tell. Plus, you're going to get some new guns, which is always exciting. What are you going to need for this one? As before, a table of roughly the same size. So if you have Infinity Essential Start here, the 55 by 40 centimeter map from there is perfect. The 80 by 60 centimeter from Sandtrap is also perfect, or a table of roughly that amount of size. We discussed the table setup in the previous video for missions 1 and 2. This table will be absolutely perfect. Exactly the same as that. Just do the same thing again. That's absolutely fine. This is not the time to be worrying about terrain density and lines of fire. Keep it simple, keep it easy. There's more things that we need to be concerned about than that. Next, we are going to need some dice. We're going to need tokens. So between 10 and 6 order tokens. If you're only using the Essential Start Here box, then you're only going to need 6 tokens because that's all you have. And that's all the miniatures you have. You'll need a tape, and then you'll need between 10 and 6 miniatures. 5 from one faction, 5 from another, or if you are doing Start Here, then 3 from one and 3 from the other. This will take about an hour. Although by now, because you've done the missions twice of the basics, mission 1 and 2, you should be a lot quicker with your declarations and your resolving things and all the rest of it. We're going to build the exceptions in here and the if-but moments, so this is probably going to be still about an hour. When you've got these down, this type of game, with this type of volume of orders, I mean really, half an hour, quite comfortably, including setup. It's really quite quick when you have your eye in, but right now you're a newbie, you don't have your eye in, so don't worry about it. Recap. What did you miss? So just to recover what we did in the previous videos, what can you do with an order? You can do one basic short skill, another basic short skill, a basic short skill, and a normal short skill. So that's like move, idle for the basic short skill, and then you had the BS attack, CC attack, and dodge for the short skills, or a one long skill, which we're still not doing any more of today. The important notes with declaring anything is that you need to engage your opponent, make sure that they are clear that you're doing a thing. Declare everything you're doing very, very accurately and very, very clearly, and take your time. There is no need to rush. That is the process of spending an order. So engage the opponent, declare which trooper you can activate, declare basic short skill, move if you're moving, request AROs, declare second short skill, move if you're moving, and then request AROs if you did move, and then resolve the order with rolling dice. Again, as soon as you start rolling dice, your declaration process is over. So there is no sort of... as soon as you start rolling that dice, it's all done, basically. And then we have the effects, and as ever, everything happens at once. So you can take a shot when you're moving. You don't have to shoot at the end or at the start. You can do it during that whole process. You'll see we're zipping through here, because you should have done this twice. So success value is a trooper attribute plus any modifiers, gives you your success value. That's what you need to roll on a d20 to pass a check to make a thing happen. So if you're shooting someone, you'll have a success value. That is what you need to get to hit your target. Normal roll is when you're not being ARO'd to, when it's just you, yourself, and I. You check your attribute of the skill, check your modifiers, generate your success value, roll. Every roll equal to or under your success value is a success. Job done. Face-to-face rolls are pretty much the same, except your opponent does it too, and you get to compare both of your results, cancelling any enemy successes with a lower value. Successes of the same value cancel each other, crits cancel everything, which we have here. Critical is when you hit your success value exactly, which is amazing. It cancels all non-critical enemy successes, even if they are of a higher value. And you have to make one extra save for any critical CC or BS attacks. Criticals cancel criticals. Keeping up? Good. Process for saving. Check the possibility of survival from the weapon, add cover, add the arm value of the target, gives you a success value as before equal to or less. Crits do nothing. You lose 1 wound for everything over that success value that you roll. So if you needed a 10 to save and you rolled an 11, you'd lose a wound for that. Partial cover. If you are in base-to-base contact with something, a decent sized piece of terrain that partly obscures the view of your trooper between you and somebody attacking you, they get -3 to their BS attack and +3 to you to your saving roll. Glorious. Your available basic short skills, as we discussed, move and idle. Sorry, basic short skills are move and idle. Short skills are BS attack, CC attack, and dodge. Now we're going to expand things. This is the new stuff. Yay! So this is a full profile for a Hatamoto from JSA, with all of this stuff. Now, as before, we're running a reduced version, but we will keep in the equipment section and the special skills section. What we're specifically keeping there is mimetism from special skills and camouflage from, MSV from equipment. So it's still a cut down version of this, but less cut down. When you look at the black hair, multispectral visor, mimetism, that shows you what equipment looks like and what special skills look like. You still don't need to worry about BTS and silhouette and AVA, and we don't need to care about those. Those are not relevant at this point still. Sure. Special skills, tricks and training. Special skills are abilities that are given to a trooper based on their training, their veterancy, or their inbuilt natural abilities. So when you start dealing with werewolves and stuff like that, they have things that they can do natively. That appears under your special skills. They do many things. They will make your trooper harder to hit. They will buff close combat, buff movement, allow unique deployments, give states. They will give lots of different abilities, and they give flavour to your trooper. They really, it's one of the things, you know, when you look at the stat sheets of a lot of troopers, yes, the armour may be different, but Vita, the number of wounds, that will be between 1 and 3. There's not a huge swing. BS will be between 10 and 15, which is a 25% swing, but again, it's not massive. When you start factoring in your special skills, you start adding flavour and options and choices to your troopers. The first one we're looking at is mimetism. Mimetism is basically your dude's ability to go all predator and vanish in plain sight. This can be a piece of equipment that makes them vanish. It can be them being sneaky. It can be them trained in sticking to the shadows and just staying out of the way. it just generally makes them harder to be seen and therefore to be shot. So enemies targeting this trooper with a BS attack apply a negative modifier. Enemies targeting this trooper with a discover skill, which we're going to talk about soon, apply a negative modifier as well. Common values, mimetism -3, mimetism -6. There aren't really anything beyond that because mimetism stacks with cover. So if you have a mimetism -6 trooper who is in cover and being shot at, then whoever is shooting at them will be at -9 to hit. That's quite big, that's quite a lot. So let's look at a profile, the Hatamoto here. He's got mimetism -3. So if you're shooting at him, you are automatically at -3 to whatever your success value is, you're at -3 to that. So modifiers. Mimetism is a modifier of -3, as we can see under special skills there. They come from some special skills, some weapons, some other bits and pieces have them. Some are negative, some are positive, not position. Some are negative, some are positive. A positive modifier always buffs the trooper who has it. So if you have a pH +3 on your special skill, then that trooper gets +3 to their fizz when they do a thing. So normally you get that for dodge. If they're especially good at dodging out the way, they'll have fizz +3. Negative modifiers always debuff the enemy. So if you see something, a good one of those is power weapons. They make things, they paralyze people, paralyze equipment. You will often see a power weapon has power -6 on it. So if you're responding to that weapon in close combat, whether you're dodging or whether you're combating it back, you will suffer a -6 to whatever you're doing to that. So buffs, always good for you. Negatives, always bad for the enemy. That's how to think about those when you see them on the profile. So here's some other great examples. We have the Chris Borach before, who we met in the last video. He has a BS attack +1B. So when he uses a weapon and does a BS attack, he gets +1 burst to that. That's good news for him. When somebody shoots back at him and does a BS attack against him, they receive a -3 to hit him because it's a negative modifier. So it goes against the enemy that's doing the bad thing. Likewise, we have the blue coats here. Now, if we look under special skills, he has Discover +3. So when he is using the Discover skill, he gets +3 to his whip stat for doing that Discover, because we discover on whip. But also, if you look under melee weapons, we have Para CC weapon -6. So if you are engaging the blue coat in CC, trying to bonk him on the head, you will receive -6 to your roll because he has a Para CC weapon, and that's how that works. Negatives are always for the enemy, positives are always for you. That's how to think about those modifiers. So now we're going to go on to equipment, and you can probably guess what equipment is. It's stuff that does stuff that your guys are carrying. Again, equipment does lots and lots of things. You will find that some equipment counters special skills. So a little bit of foreshadowing there for you. You'll find that equipment includes vehicles, hacking gear, healing stuff, fixing stuff, and stuff. It will be in your equipment section, and that is just gear that they're carrying to do something special. So a minute ago we had mimetism. And mimetism is a special skill that makes you harder to hit when you're shot at. Multispectral visor is a counter to mimetism. You have 3 levels, different levels of MSV, as it's called. Multispectral visor is a bit of a mouthful, so we shorten it to MSV. There's probably somebody out there who calls it MSV, because there always is someone that does that, but MSV. There are 3 levels of MSV that have varying levels of impact, varying levels of quality. They also cost varying levels of points, so you will pay points for these. Although your troopers come with them as standard, that will be built into the trooper cost. MSV is obligatory, you can't turn it off, it is always on. That is important because there is actually a special skill in here, I think it's a special skill or a piece of equipment, I think it's a special skill, that counters MSV. Because Infinity is very much a game of rock, paper, scissors. If I have a thing, someone else will have a thing that can beat my thing, but then that thing will be beaten by something else that can itself be beaten by the... And so round and round we go. So you will find that Infinity is a game of rock, paper, scissors. If there is something that you have, somebody else will have something else to ruin that day. And MSV is the hard counter for mimetism. What do they do? MSV level 1 reduces mimetism -3 to 0 and mimetism -6 to -3, which is pretty cool. So if you've got a trooper like we had with the Hatamoto, who was mimetism -3, and he's being shot at with by somebody with MSV 1, then his mimetism will now count as 0 because MSV counters that mimetism. If you have MSV level 2, it reduces mimetism -3 to 0 and mimetism -6 to 0. So if you've got somebody with really, really good mimetism, which again you pay for, MSV level 2 will counter that for you quite happily all day long. Level 3 is exactly the same as level 2, but with other stuff. And I want to come back to the other stuff in a minute. MSV also impacts visibility zones. Now, visibility zones are things like smoke. Infinity has smoke. We will cover it later. But you can create an area that's either hard to see through or impossible to see through. MSV will counter that quite happily for you. So, here is a trooper with MSV. We have the Black Air from Sandtrap. This is a Pano unit. And he has multispectral visor level 2. And he also has mimetism -3. So that does mean that if you have a Black Air and your opponent has a Black Air and they shoot at each other, they ignore that mimetism -3 modifier for shooting at somebody with mimetism because the MSV cancels the -3. So, wrong way. Let's bring it all together in a pretty example and stick a bow on top of that. We have I'm going to make these quicker than the previous ones because you should have done this enough so that you can track this through. A Hatamoto is in its active phase. It is doing a BS attack targeting a Pano Black Air sniper. The Black Air AROs with BS attack. The range is 14 inches. There is no cover for either of them. We've done all the declarations. This is all done. We're moving on to resolving next, basically. That's what we're doing here. So this is our process for resolving an attack. We have the Hatamoto on the right there. We have the Black Air on the right there. They look friendly. They're not really. They're going to shoot each other. Don't be fooled. So this is our process, as we've seen before, for resolving a BS attack. Declare targets, check shooters BS, check range, check for cover, check now for mimetism. So we've now added that extra step into this, okay? We then confirm our success value, which is now the ballistic skill of the shooter, plus any range mod, plus any cover mod, plus any mimetism mod. So that goes onto this success value. We then check burst, we roll one die per burst, and every blah, 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 blah. At the bottom, we have the two equations that we're going to run through here. So looking at the stats of our troopers, the Hatamoto's BS is 13, and the Black Air's BS is 13. So we know who our targets are, we've already done that, so now we can lock in at the bottom there, the Hatamoto's BS is now changed to 13, the Black Air is now changed to 13. So we know who's who. We know who's shooting what. We check our range. We know that it was 14 inches. So again, looking at these weapon profiles, the Spitfire is 0 up to 8 inches and then +3 up to 24 inches. So we know that we were at 14 inches. So the Spitfire gets +3 to its BS. So the Hatamoto gets +3 to its BS. The sniper rifle, however, at 14 inches is in that 8 to 16 band, which is at zeros. So the sniper gets 0 to its BS. And even though the weapon profile there has a burst of 2, because we are AROing with the Black Air, he only gets a burst of 1. Let's move on. So there we go. So now we're getting this together. We have the Hatamoto with BS of 13 on the bottom there, +3 for range. The Black Air, BS of 13, +0 for range. We check the cover mod, but we know already that that's 0. So we've established that. Then we look at our special skills, our mimetism. The Hatamoto has special skill mimetism -3, and the Black Air has special skill mimetism -3. So they both have mimetism -3, which goes in to give us a success value. Except Black Air has that multispectral visor level 2. So even though the Hatamoto has special skill mimetism -3, we ignore that because the MSV level 2 cancels it. So what that means is when we look at our success values here, the Hatamoto has a BS of 13. He has +3 for range. He has +0 for cover. There's no distance there. And he has -3 for the mimetism of the black air. So his total is 13 on a burst of 4. So he'll have 4 dice at 13. The black air has BS of 13. 0 range band, because there's no, it's in the 0 range band for the weapon. 0 modifier for cover. And even though the Hatamoto has that -3 mimetism, that is ignored because the MSV level 2 of the black air cancels it. So Hatamoto has mimetism -3, black air has MSV level 2, it cancels. So the black air ends up hitting on a 13 as well, but only with 1 dice because we're on ARO. Hope that makes sense. That was quite quick, but if you've played a few games, that should make sense. The only difference here from everything you've done before, the range check, the cover check, is the mimetism check and the cancelling with MSV. But that is how MSV versus mimetism looks. Game states. Game states are really important. They happen when the condition of a miniature changes. So this can be a good thing or a bad thing, and it can be the result of skill or attack or a whole raft of other things actually. Hacking abilities, close combat abilities, all kinds of things can change the state of a trooper. Common states you're going to face in the game: unconscious. Now at the moment, when you take a hit, you're removing the miniature. That's how this works. Technically, what should happen is that trooper, when they lose, if they only have 1 Vita, if they lose a wound, they should become unconscious. In the unconscious state, they can be resurrected by a doctor or a paramedic. But we're not doing doctors or paramedics yet. Calm yourself, we'll get there. But we're not doing that, so therefore, we just take them off the board. But technically, they go into the unconscious state. Immobilized, this can happen with a whole vast array of different ways, from hacking, from certain weapons. In fact, the Para-CC weapon that we mentioned earlier with that -6 mod, that will immobilize you. Dead is also a state. If you are unconscious and somebody decides to finish you off, either up close and personal or with a bullet, you go to dead, you come off the board, you can't be resurrected by a doctor or a paramedic. Prone, as the name implies, means that you're lying on your belly and hoping that everything goes away. It's pretty much how I spend my life. Anyway, so prone is also a state. Suppressive fire is a state, and camouflage is a state. There are in fact over 20 states in this game. That's not as intimidating as it sounds. A lot of them, like prone, it makes sense. You know, it's a condition that's applied to your trooper, and you need to. That's the thing that has to happen, and states are a thing that happen. It's a way of tracking those kind of conditions that have been applied to your trooper. But we're going to deal with right now camouflage, aka camo. Now, can we just all, for a moment, appreciate the glory of that picture at the bottom, where we have a camo marker on the left that slowly fades out to Usha McNeil on the right. Isn't that amazing? It's like it's happening before your eyes. Thank you very much. You're making me blush. I know, we're all very impressed. So what's the camouflage state? It allows a trooper to deploy as a marker the same size as their base. So you don't put the trooper down, you put a marker down. When you come out of that state, which we'll talk about how that happens in a minute, the trooper may return to the marker state by spending a full order, a long skill, when outside the line of fire of enemy troopers and or tokens. So you can spend a full order, as long as no one can see you, and go back into that marker state. But why? So, the effects of the camouflage state. You appear on the board as a marker. First of all, the enemy doesn't know what that is. Okay, you see the camo markers at the bottom of the board. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You track on your list which one of your troopers is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. You track that. Your enemy doesn't find that out until those camouflage states are cancelled and the miniature, or the camo marker, is removed and replaced with miniature. They simply don't know what it is, which is not nice. Markers may not be targeted for attacks. They cannot shoot at a camo marker because they don't know what it is. They can't target that at all. They have a 360-degree line of fire. Not massively important at the moment, but it will be important in future games. and enemies cannot enter contact with the marker. They can't voluntarily do it. They can't walk up to it. For the sharp-eyed amongst you, the red dot with the -3 in it is a referral to the mimetism special skill, because a lot, not all, but a lot of camo markers will also have a mimetism skill on them of -3 or -6. Some do have no mimetism at all, but as a rule they will normally do so. So this lets you deploy troopers on the board which your opponent does not know what they are. Unlike a lot of games, at the start of a game, you will provide your opponent with what's called an open list, and that is the information they're allowed to know. That will not contain any information about any camo markers that you have on the board. It won't even say that they're there. Your opponent will find that out as you deploy your army and start putting camo markers down. It's a great way of being able to do things and move up the board without being shot, because your opponent can't actually target them. They're not a valid target. They can't do anything to them. There's a whole load of other things you can't do to camo markers. So the camouflage state is really, really powerful. It does cost points. It will cost you in your list, but it is well worth it. To cancel the camouflage state, you have to declare a skill with the marker which requires a roll. So if you do a BS attack, a CC attack, a dodge, any of those things, instantly you replace that marker with the miniature. If you declare a long skill other than cautious movement, which doesn't matter what other long skills there are some, but if you do anything other than cautious movement, which you also haven't seen yet, you reveal that marker. If you take your camo marker and you put it into base-to-base contact with an enemy trooper, you reveal it. Or if you have to make a saving throw. There are weapons inside of Infinity that have a template. If you are stood next to somebody who's not in a camo marker state and that is hit by a template, your camo marker may get caught by that template and may then have to make a saving throw, at which point it reveals what it is. The last and probably the second most common thing that will happen is you cancel your camo state if you're discovered. So that is our discover special skill that our discover skill that we're gonna look at in a minute. When the state is cancelled, you must replace the marker with the correct miniature at that point. And if it is your active phase, if you are spending orders on that camo marker, your camo marker counts as having been the trooper for the entire order in which it was discovered. So if you've done a move, and as you get to the end of that move, you reveal yourself in whatever way, then you count as having been revealed for that order. So then you can be targeted by other things. It's a little bit of a knotty one. It's a little bit of a complicated one. But if you're discovered in your active phase from a camo marker state, then you are discovered for the entirety of that order. So just be aware of that one. Now this is where we build in our first rules exception. So, are you sitting comfortably? I didn't even put a pretty picture of a miniature on this page because this needs your full undivided attention. The camo marker state fundamentally alters the declaration process of an order, because you may delay an ARO to a camo marker. Now, you'll know for your first two games that you have to declare an ARO as soon as you are able to see the enemy trooper. Not so with camo marker. You may choose to delay an ARO. So the camo marker spends its first short skill, and you can see it. It moves, for example. You do not have to ARO to that. You can delay. If you do delay, then your second short skill, your ARO to the second short skill is only possible, you can only declare to that if the marker reveals itself with its second short skill. So a camo marker moves out in front of one of your troopers, you decide to delay, you think, I think he's going to pop out. He then moves again, you've lost your ability to ARO because it didn't reveal itself with its second short skill. If, however, it moves, then it declares shoot. that second short skill will reveal it, and you can then ARO to that shot, that BS attack. So there's a little bit of shell games, and you'll find that quite a lot, especially when you're running your camo markers. It's kind of like, I'm going to move them out here. What are you going to do? I'm going to ARO with Discover. Cool, I'll shoot you in the face. Or I'm going to hold my arrow. Cool, I'm going to keep moving across out of sight over here. And you've lost your arrow. There's a fine art to it, and we will talk about the tactics around camo state and revealing and all this kind of stuff in future videos. So that means that it looks like this is a huge amount of words, but this is how the order declaration process looks like for camo markers. Okay, ignore the top stuff. We are activating a camo marker, so we declare that that marker is going to be activated, and we place an order by that camo marker. We declare a move. You request AROs. The reactive player can only declare Discover, Dodge, Idle, or Delay to that camo marker. They can't do anything else. Those are their 4 choices. If they declare a second short skill, so we now declare a second short skill on our marker, our camo marker. If we declare move again, we move it, place it in its final place, and request any AROs for troopers that can now see the marker that couldn't before. But if there are troopers who could see the camo marker for the first basic short skill, for that first movement that we did, they may not ARO now. They have lost their ability to ARO. They had to declare Discover, Dodge, Idle, or Delay. Sorry, discover, Dodge, or Idle to the first short skill. Because they didn't, they've lost it. If, however, the camo marker declares move, request AROs, and then the second short skill we declare reveals, then we instantly replace the marker with the mini and do that second short skills. They can be like shoot or CC attack or whatever. Any enemy troopers who declare delay in their ARO may now ARO to the newly revealed marker. They can now choose what they wish to do. Shoot, dodge, CC attack, whatever. Because the marker state is cancelled, because the camouflage state is cancelled, it is now a valid target. They can do what they wish to it. I hope that makes sense. Let's find out if it did. In the bottom left, we have an engineer, Yuching engineer. And on the top right, we have a camo marker. Camo marker goes for a walk. First short skill is move. He moves out there. We now have choices with the engineer. The engineer may choose to delay, hold his ARO. He can choose to discover. He can choose to dodge. What does that look like? So the camo marker makes its first movement skill move. The engineer declares discover. And then the camo marker attacks. This is why your declarations with units, with troopers against camo markers is important. That BS attack on the camo marker, the second short skill, cancels the camouflage state. Because the camouflage state is cancelled, the discover skill for the engineer, the ARO of discover, is cancelled too, because there is no longer a valid target for discover. The BS attack that the camo marker then declared is a normal roll. There is no response from the engineer. He was trying to figure out what was going on, and suddenly there's bullets everywhere. So he gets no response to that BS attack. It's just a normal roll where the camo marker, range mods, cover mods against their BS, and they roll their own dice. The engineer will roll nothing. He's just going to eat it. It's quite unpleasant, and that's camo markers for you. However, what if we did something else? With first movement skill, the camouflage marker moves, just as before. The engineer AROs with discover. And then with the second short skill, the camo marker decides to risk it for a biscuit. They put their brave pants on. They continue to move. They do something else other than something that reveals them. They idle because they just had a bit of a moment. They do something other than reveal themselves. In this situation, if it's move, the camo marker completes the second short skill, ends up wherever it ends up. The discover skill is then resolved with the die roll. If the discover skill is passed, then wherever the camo marker ended up, the camo marker is removed and the miniature is placed in its position. That camo state is cancelled. If the discover skill is unsuccessful, the camo marker remains where it was and nothing happens to it because it wasn't revealed, it wasn't discovered. So, move, discover, BS attack, discover is cancelled, move, discover, move, or something else that doesn't reveal it, you get to roll that dice as the ARO to discover whether you can discover the camo marker. What if something else happens? So again, that camo marker moves. This time, the engineer delays. And this time, again, the camo marker does something to reveal itself. It does a BS attack, it does a dodge, it does something else that involves it revealing itself and placing the miniature on the board. The engineer, because the camo marker revealed itself, may now declare an ARO of BS attack or dodge to that camo marker that is now a miniature on the board. It's now a valid target. It can do the attack. In this instance, the camouflage state is cancelled because the camo marker declared a skill that revealed itself. It's going to roll a dice, it's going to do a BS attack, it's going to do a dodge, whatever. And if the camo marker is targeting the engineer, that becomes a face-to-face roll to resolve the order. They're going to be an opposed roll against each other. If we go through the process again and the camo marker does move, the ARO trooper delays, and then for the second short skill, the camo marker moves, it idles, it does something that doesn't reveal itself. Because it hasn't revealed itself, the engineer has lost his ability to ARO. Because there is no valid target, he can't shoot, he can't dodge, he's lost his opportunity to respond in any meaningful way. So in that situation, the camouflage state remains, the marker completes its move as needed, and the ARO is lost because the camo marker didn't reveal. That state wasn't cancelled. Tough. It's where reacting to camo markers, you need to try and establish what your opponent's doing. Are they going for a run? Are they going across the board? Do I then maybe want to discover them? Do I have multiple guys that can see it? Do I want to discover with one and not with another one who's going to hold in case he pops out and I can shoot him? There is an art and there is a wonderful flowchart of process that you run through of eliminating which one's the best option. Some people will tell you should always hold and try and put bullets in it, but that's not always the case, and sometimes that's the worst thing you can do, because some of the things that are underneath these camo markers can have flamethrowers and other kinds of unpleasantness, or they could be on their way to do a mission, and if you just stand there and wait for them to reveal and they never plan to, you can give them free rein to do something unpleasant to you. So knowing when is the right time to discover, when's the right time to shoot, there is a process to that. The most important thing right now is getting clear in your head these effective 4 options: move, ARO, discover, BS attack, discover's lost, BS attack comes through for free. The move, discover, move other, you then complete your discover, move, delay, BS attack in response, or move, delay, move, idle, not reveal, the ARO is lost. So this is very much one of the big exceptions for Infinity, because where you always have to declare that ARO as soon as you're able to, apart from here you don't do that. There are a couple of other instances where that's the case, where you can delay your ARO, but they are basically a form of camo, a form of hiding what's underneath it, and you have to wait to see whether it tips your hand basically or not. So that's an example of camouflage, arrows, etc. So we've talked about it enough. Let's actually look at it. Let's look at Disco. Let's go discover. This is your new skill. This uses the whip attribute, so the willpower attribute. So the cleverer your trooper is, the more likely they are to be able to break things out of a camouflage state. So this is a basic short skill. It enables the skill to be, so the fact that it is a basic short skill means that you can use it as the first skill of an order in place of move or idle, which is a bit bonkers. Discovering someone is the same as going for a walk. Okay. So that means that discover plus BS attack is a valid selection in a single order. You can, if you can see a camo marker, go, right, I'm going to discover that one with my first short skill, request any AROs. If they don't respond for whatever reason, you can then declare your second short skill as BS attack. The way this works, again, this is another exception, you then roll one die to discover whether discover is successful. If it is successful, then you get to make the BS attack. If you fail your discover roll, then your BS attack is cancelled because there are no valid targets. A valid target is a trooper. A camo marker is not a trooper. It is not a valid target for a BS attack. But what does it do? If you are successful in completing your whip check, then you can discover an enemy trooper, cancelling their camouflage states. They're in a marker state, you make a roll for discover. If you succeed, they have their marker state cancelled, their camouflage state cancelled. And yes, you can do this in ARO. So here is the process. Discover, we declare target. This is going to sound like a BS attack, and it is, just with your brain. So you declare your target, you check your trooper's whip, because this is done on whip, not on BS. You check your range, because yes, there are range modifiers for discover. If you're within 8 inches, you're more likely to be able to do it. 32 inches, it's roughly average. Anything above that and things start getting tricky. If your marker is in cover, the -3 for cover applies, but this is applied to your whip. You check for mimetism, and you confirm your success value. So whip plus range mod plus cover mod plus mimetism is your success value. Again, that is the same process as a BS attack. So this is why it's important to learn your BS attack and have that down instinctively, because a discover roll is the same thing. It's identical. If you can do one, you can do the other. If you roll the die and it's equal to or under the success value, then you have a success. Success instantly cancels the camouflage state of a marker and removes the marker and replaces it with the miniature on the board. Notes. So MSV works as usual during discover. So if you have a marker with mimetism, MSV counters that mimetism to some or a complete degree. If a trooper fails a discover check, then that trooper may not try to discover that particular marker again until the next player turn. So if they whiff it, if they can't tell what that particular shape is, they can't have another go at doing that discover yet. They have to wait for your next turn to have a crack. If a marker declares an ARO in response to a discover skill that would cancel the camo state, then the discover is changed to an idle. So if you are doing active phase, basic short skill, discover, second short skill, BS attack, and they declare shoot or dodge in response, which sometimes is the brightest thing to do, then the discover becomes idle because they've revealed themselves. But that does mean that in ARO, that if you are AROing discover and they reveal themselves, that also changes the discover to an idle. So, yeah, that's everything that I've said there. So let's look at this as an example. Here we have an Azura. This is a little Aleph Death Dealer. Do we like the map? I like this. I think this is a much clearer way of demonstrating certain things. So we have an Azura. We have a camo marker. We declare our target. The Azura is targeting the camo marker. We check the trooper's whip. The Azura has a whip of 15 because she is simply not pleasant. So our whip is 15. We check our range. Sees it's 7 inches. That means that we get +3 to our whip. Yep, it's not nice. We check for cover. There is none. We check for mimetism. There is mimetism. However, we have multispectral visor level 3 on the Azura, so she cares not for your mimetism. There is no mimetism. That means that we have, in the final analysis here, the whip of 15 for the Azura, plus 3 because we're within 7 inches, plus 0 for cover, plus 0 for mimetism equals 18. So the Azura will roll 1 dice on a score of 18 or less. The marker will be replaced with the miniature. The camouflage state will be cancelled. On a roll of a 19 or a 20, not only will the marker remain there and the trooper not revealed, but the Azura will not be able to discover that camouflage marker again this turn. If it reveals itself, if it does something and shoots at her or whatever, has a bit of a moment, whatever, then she can respond to it. But while it is in that marker state, for this turn, she can't try and discover it again. She can't walk up to it and get into base-to-base contact with it, because you're not allowed to do that with troopers in a camouflage state. She rolls over that 18, just put her back in the box. She's clearly drunk. But anyway, if she does whiff it, then that can be a real problem. Can it happen? Not fun, wouldn't recommend. So again, if the roll succeeds, the target loses camouflage state, the marker is placed for the miniature. If it fails, the target remains in the camouflage state. The trooper may not attempt to discover the marker again until the next player turn. The trooper may attempt to discover different markers, however. Right. MSV level 3. MS3 is Auto C. We talked about this before. This is the different levels of MS3 and what it does. So MSV counters mimetism. MSV level 3 is basically level 2, but so much meaner. It is the top tier of MSV, so it counters top tier mimetism. It's not that common, there's not very many units that have it, and it's obligatory as before. Level 3 reduces mimetism -3 to 0, -6 to 0. Fine. It makes a discover skill an auto success. You don't roll a dice, you just declare, I'm going to discover that camo marker, and in the resolution step at the end of the turn, that camo marker is revealed. It's done, it's poof, complete. If, however, that's not good enough, MS3 also lets you shoot at camo markers without discovering them, but with any mimetism mods remaining in place. Okay. So you have, as we're about to see, an Azura with MSV level 3. There she is again. Now she has 2 camo markers in front of her. One out of cover, one in cover. They're both mimetism -3. What can she do about this? There they are. I'm looking at each other. She can auto-discover camo marker 1 and do another short skill. She can auto-discover camo marker 2 and another short skill. So she could discover camo marker 1 and shoot, discover camo marker 2 and shoot. If she chooses to just shoot without discovering first, she can shoot a camo marker 1 with the mimetism and the cover applied, so -3 and -3. Because she's not discovering first, she has to suck it up with those mimetisms in the cover. Why would you do this? Takes a bit of clarification first. So let's say you moved for your first short skill so you can see that camo marker. You don't then want to discover, because that's the end of your order. You could just move and then shoot. So in that situation, because she hasn't discovered first, the mimetism mods apply. So she could shoot a camo marker 1 and get the -3 for mimetism and -3 for cover. If she shoots a camo marker 2, which, as we see at the top there, is out of cover, it's only the -3 BS to mimetism. Or she can shoot at both of them and suffer -3 BS mimetism for both of them and -3 BS for cover for marker 1. So she could split her fire. They normally carry rifles or Spitfires. If she had a Spitfire, which is burst 4, she could put 2 shots into camo marker 1 and 2 shots into camo marker 2. The shots into camo marker 1 would be at -6 BS for the mimetism and cover, and the 2 shots into camo marker 2 would be at -3 for both of them. for the mimetism, but only because she didn't discover first. It's a nasty trick. It is a nasty trick. MSV is unpleasant. Being able to auto-discover something is horrible, but also being able to just shoot at them anyway without discovering them is just distinctly unpleasant. It's just not a nice thing. But you pay a lot of points for it, so yeah, and like I say, they're not that common. And so to the army list, what should you run? These are built very much on the list that we ran for mission 1 and 2, so you're just adding another couple of miniatures in there. For Sandtrap Camo, add the black air, but count it as a marksman rifle, and the scarecrow. For the sand, because that's going to give you a camo marker, a camo state with the scarecrow from memory, and the black air will give you mimetism and MSV. Hatamoto and the Yamabushi, because that's going to give you toys in there as well, the marker state and the mimetism. For the Essentials Pano, the Start Here box, we're going to downgrade things slightly. We're going to go from 3 Fusiliers to 2 Fusiliers in the Orc, and give the Orc counts as MSV1, and then change one of the Kaisotsu that we used, sorry, the Shikami that we used as a Kaisotsu in the games 1 and 2, turn that back into a Shikami. So we end up with 2 Kaisotsu and a Shikami. What that will give you on the Pano side is a heavy infantry with MSV1. On the JSA side, it will give you a Shikami who has mimetism. So you'll have the mimetism versus MSV side of things. There isn't really a way of doing the marker state in this particular setup, so you need to buy the expansion armies to make this work. Then we have the Essentials Nomads. Run the 3 Securitati in there as combis, then run the Spectre and the Grenza. The Spectre will give you something that can go into the Camouflage state, and the Grenza will give you MSV. Then the Essentials Yu Qing, take the 2 Zanshi, count them as combis. Take the Zuyong combi, count that as a Zanshi with a combi. Take the Zensha, because the Zensha can go into the Camouflage state, and then take the Hideout combi and have that as counts as Sniper with MSV2, because then you have the Zensha to do the Camouflage state and the Hideout to do the MSV2 shenanigans. In conclusion, what's next? What's going on? So this is everything that we zipped through on this particular video. Hopefully that makes sense. It's expanding on what we did before and building in exceptions. If you can do that, you are grand. I would say if you're confused, run back through, see where you are particularly confused, and whack it in the comments below. Always happy to help on that front. Up next, we suggest that you practice the camo states and delaying AROs and all that kind of stuff, because it can be a little bit of a brain breaker as to whether, how do I, and what about. Just get used to that. Then look at different units in your faction which have mimetism, which have the camouflage state, and MSV as well. Get those in there too. Look at the different ones. Look at how they structure, because you'll see that camouflage units, for the most part, not entirely, but for the most part, follow a certain type of feel. The camouflage is mostly in place of heavy armor. It's mostly a midline trooper with some sneaky tricks. That's not always true, but for the most part, that is. Get a feel of it. Get a feel of how camouflage looks and plays. That's important. And with Mission 4, it's time to get physical. So I will see you for that. I hope this was great. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, share, subscribe, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.